Well, the circus is back in town. So now that the US election is over down south, will that revive the real estate market in the US and even up here? Hmm. I'll dive into that. I will also discuss the latest real estate stats from the Toronto Real Estate Board, which were released early this morning. Not sure which ended first, the election or the stats came out. But we'll dive into those as well and take your questions as always right here, right now on Live at Lunch. Thank you so much for joining me. And unless you had cut off all forms of communication and social media, you know that the United States had their elections last night. And what's interesting is that um, all these months leading up to the election, I've been communicating with agents down in the US. I've got a whole network of real estate agents, not only in Canada, but all across the United States. And we refer business to each other, et cetera. And things were pretty slow, especially in certain pockets. And one of the reasons why they said it was slow, because they said, oh, it's an election year. Elections are coming up. People want to wait and see the result of the election, but I found that very odd because, I mean, really, what difference is the election going to make? I know there's a switch of political parties. I know some people are thinking that, this is going to turn things around. But honestly, um, the main driver of real estate transactions is supply and demand, and the main driver of that is life changes, right? So, regardless of who wins an election, people are going to still, go about their daily business and their lives, right? Their lives are not going to change, at least the day to day, because of who's in office, right? People are still going to get married. People are still going to have kids. People are still going to die, unfortunately. People are still going to get sick. People are still going to get divorced. So, like, oh, okay, Trump's back in office. Now we can put off our divorce plans, or we can put off our wedding plans, or vice versa. You know what? We're going to wait and see if Trump gets elected before we get married or divorced. Or it just doesn't make any sense to me. And this is not, for or against anybody, but I'm just saying, um, it just really doesn't make sense that people are waiting for something to happen. I understand the whole economy thing as well, but I think we're giving too much credit to the people in office who uh, have a major impact on the economy as well. Because again, it's all driven by supply and demand, especially on the real estate side. So, um, but now that the election is over, I'm wondering if all these people who said, "Oh, I'm going to wait till after the election," blah blah blah, are actually going to step up now and actually buy something or sell something or whatever the case may be. So that'll be interesting to follow. And again, whatever happens in the U.S. is mirrored up here to some degree, anyways. So if things start picking up down there, it may translate up here as well, because you can combine that with the interest rate cuts that have been happening since June. We've had what, 3 or 4 cuts now? Yeah, so June, July, September, and October. And there's another one expected in December. So that's going to be 5 cuts this year. Um, and all this pent up demand that we have up here as well, which was obvious because even though sales slow down, showings did not stop. People still kept going out there looking at houses, looking at whatever, at properties. So you saw that, and now that was building up, and now they're starting to buy, right? So I mentioned the Toronto Real Estate Board stats. I'll get into those in a minute, but we saw a huge increase in the number of sales month over month from September to October. So that's going to be, yeah, like I said, interesting to see where this goes from here. And again, I did have a question specifically regarding now that Trump is back in office, will this boost the real estate market? And I guess I kind of spoke to that already. Um, I I think the real estate market is going to be boosted anyway with what's happening up here with interest rates and pent up demand. I don't think Trump being elected is going to be much of a factor up here. I think it would happen regardless of who won the election last night. Just my opinion. But anyways, if you have a different opinion, that's great. You can share it here, and you can ask your questions here. If you have questions or comments, please post them here, and I'll try to get to them while I'm on the air. I always like to hear different opinions, and you never know who else out there has the same questions you do. So it's always good to post it here, and I can answer it live. If you'd rather send me a DM, that's cool too. You can do that, and I'll get to it as soon as I can. Or if you're watching this on the replay and you still have a question, you can still post it in the comments, and I'll get to it as soon as possible. All right. So moving on. So the Toronto Real Estate Board early this morning, probably even before the announcement was made that Trump won the election, came out with their stats for October. And I have a summary right here, and I also posted it on Instagram earlier today. I like to look at four main areas where most of my business happens in the city of Toronto, in the city of Mississauga, city of Brampton, and the city of Oakville. Those are the main four areas. And all the other areas around there, like Milton, Burlington, places like that, Hamilton, they're kind of more or less the same, but I can't talk about all the areas. And I don't want to speak generally about all the areas because real estate is very local and very specific. So if you live in a section of the GTA or Ontario that I'm not speaking to, and you're curious about, like say Caledon, for example, or Bolton, Hamilton, etc., all those places, Milton, and you're curious, by all means, reach out to me, and I'm happy to share those stats with you as well, and give you my opinion on the market up there. Okay, cool. So first of all, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we saw a huge increase in sales activity all across the board. In Toronto, for example, sales went up 39%. Okay, and you combine this with a drop in new listings or new supply of, say, excuse me, 2.7%, say 3%. So listings dropped 3%, but sales went up 39%. And what that does is it tightens the market a little bit. It makes it more competitive for home buyers, and it usually results in an increase in home prices, which we did see month over month. Home prices, the average home price went up slightly, almost 5%, 4.6%, 4.7%, something like that. Will that continue? We don't know. Home prices have been pretty flat, a little bit up and down for the last year or so. Now that sales activity is picking up and supply is going down, they may go up a little bit more. Who knows what's going to happen? I've been saying that it's going to be a busy winter for a while, so keep an eye on that, and I'll certainly keep you updated on what's going on. So we have a similar story in Mississauga. Sales activity went up 27%, whereas new listings came down by 5%. Again, tightening the market there too. And the average price in Mississauga went up about 3%. In Brampton, Brampton marches to the beat of its own drum. But here we also saw a similar increase in sales activity, up 27%. And new listings came down just over 7%. But the average price in Brampton actually came down about 1.5%, which is interesting. And then we move on to Oakville. Same story. Sales went up 31% in Oakville, whereas new supply came down about 6%. And the average price in Oakville came down about 6%, almost 6%. But again, Oakville is a very small sample size. So, take that with a grain of salt. We have to look at it over several months to see if this is a pattern. So again, sales went up significantly all across the board. And again, I'm attributing this mainly to lower interest rates, which we have seen since June, finally kicking in. We saw a huge cut in October. That may have sparked some deals as well. Lots of pent-up demand. Demand never went away. Demand was always there. And now that things are becoming slightly more affordable, because remember, if home prices hardly move, but then the interest from up here all of a sudden comes down here, the overall price you're paying for the house is going to be less, because people buy houses and they look at not just the purchase price, but monthly payments. So the purchase price may be the same, but their monthly payments will be coming down because of the interest is coming down. So now that they can qualify for a certain amount that they're paying per month, they're more apt to buy something. So I think that's the biggest contributor to sales volume going up. And then higher consumer confidence as well. I've spoken about this before. With interest rates coming down, that gets people in a better mood, and they're just anticipating more rate cuts. So I think people are more apt to get into the market now while they see things starting to sell, and it's a little bit more affordable. And that's it. Again, I expect another rate cut in December, so this trend will continue. I think it's going to be a busy winter and maybe a busy spring as well. But the other thing to keep an eye on is renewals. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about the new mortgage rule changes, because those don't kick in until December. So I can't attribute all this increase in sales activity to the new mortgage rules, because they haven't kicked in yet. So they're going to kick in next month. And that should probably add fuel to the fire for a busy winter market. Will it be a busy spring market? Probably as well, because don't forget, most people take out 5-year terms, okay? And when did the market start going crazy? In 2020. So next year, being 5 years after 2020, you're probably going to see a lot of renewals in the late spring and summertime, when people were starting to get into the market, and the market started coming back. And the following year as well, 2021 was a hugely busy year for real estate, especially here in the GTA. So we're going to see a ton of renewals come up in 2026 as well. So then becomes the issue: will people be able to renew? Will they qualify because interest rates have come up? One of the reasons why we had such a huge spur of activity in 2020 and 2021 is because interest rates fell to the bottom, right? They were at 0.25% policy rate, and the prime rate was like 2.45%. So it was like you can get some deals under 2%, the interest rate that you're paying if you had the prime minus rate. So a lot of people took advantage of that and got into the market. So now that they're going to have to renew at a higher rate, will they still qualify to renew? We don't know. The good thing is you don't have to go through the stress test anymore. So they're not going to add 2 points to that. Sometimes they may just give you a rate and you automatically renew if you can afford it. But will people be able to afford it? So they may not bother qualifying you, but will you be able to afford it? That's going to be the big question. So you need to do some number crunching, maybe talk to a independent mortgage broker to crunch the numbers for you to see if this is something that you can afford and get ahead of the game. And if you have to sell, well, you have to sell. If you have to downsize, you have to downsize. What can you do? But I'm wondering how many people will actually be in that situation come the spring if interest rates continue to come down. Because don't forget, back in 2020, 2021, people were still subjected to the stress test. So yes, let's say they got a 2% interest rate, they still had to qualify at a minimum 4.75%, because it wasn't just 2 points at that time. There was a minimum standard. I think it was like 4.75, and then jumped up to 5.14, 5.25, whatever it was. So they still had to qualify at that rate. So if next spring, if the interest rates are low enough that they're at that rate or less, then people should have, theoretically, no trouble keeping up with their mortgage payments. If they had qualified at that rate back in 2020, unless their circumstances changed, or they lost their job or whatever it is, but I'm wondering how many people are going to actually be in that situation come the springtime. And all this talk about the market crashing, etc., I don't think it's going to happen, because a lot of people will still be able to renew and will still be able to make their monthly payments, in my opinion. especially with interest rates coming down. The only caveat is if home prices actually go up. If all these people start jumping into the market and becomes competitive again, and you see prices ticking upwards, that might be an issue as well. And then qualifying might be an issue, especially for first-time home buyers. But maybe people want to cash out. So it's like, it could be good, it could be not so good for people. So something to keep an eye on. And the only thing I can tell you for sure is that I will keep you updated no matter which way it goes, and no matter what happens in the market. So stay tuned and keep tuning in and keep asking your questions. So is it a good time for home buyers? Yes, I still think it's a good time for home buyers because, again, prices have not gone up yet. Interest rates have come down. Prices haven't jumped up yet. They may jump up come the springtime or over the winter time if too many people come into the market. So take advantage of this time. Rates are coming down. If you can secure a variable rate mortgage, you know it's going to be coming down. Plus, the fixed rates are going to be quite competitive as well. So either way, you should be in good shape. Good time to get into the market. Plus, less competition usually over the winter time, so it's a good time to get into the market. And if there's a seller out there selling over Christmas, chances are they're a little desperate. Why else would you put your house on the market over the holidays, right? So, for a buyer, that's something to take advantage of. And then for sellers as well, if in fact we do see a ton of people come to the market in the spring wanting to take advantage of a hot market, you're probably better off listing early, maybe January, maybe early February, something like that, to get ahead of the rush as a seller. But either way, reach out to me. I'm happy to discuss your neighborhood activity with you, discuss the details, give you an idea of what your house can sell for, and give you your options. So I don't see any other questions here right now. Again, if you're watching this live on the replay, feel free to ask your questions as we go along here. And with that, have a great afternoon. It's a beautiful day out there. We've had some fantastic weather here in November. I was out last night in shorts and sandals walking around. It felt like summer. It was quite amazing. So I'm loving it, and hope you enjoy it as well.